This pretty woman gets married daily, her wedding invitations can fill an entire drawer, and the hotel staff are baffled as they see her getting married there every week, but she asked them to not meddle in her affairs. Due to her unique profession, Sang-eun is a contract marriage expert, and she pretends to be the wife of single men to help them do with various requests such as to gain an inheritance or to fulfill their dying parents' wishes. Sang-eun is talented and knows how to handle clients from all walks of life. She can even help boost her fake husband's career by buttering up to them, and even Dubai tycoons are among her customers. Her great work ethics has earned her a fortune, but money alone isn't enough to engage her services. Her clients must pass a video interview before she will meet with them to sign a contract. This man had a simple request to attend his school reunion as his wife to shock his former classmates who always laughed at him for being single. When Sang-eun made her grand entrance, she attracted everyone's attention as they were shocked that this man could land such a pretty wife. She even wiped a rice grain from his face. She has helped hundreds of clients throughout her career, but she had one mysterious regular client of 5 years. When they first met, his profile was vague and he wanted to book her services for every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. However, Jiho's request was simple: he just wanted to have dinner with her. He was a quiet man and rarely spoke, and they ate their dinner in silence most of the time. Sang-eun thought he was weird and thought he was not interested in women, but strangely his phone was filled with pictures of women. He had an interest in pursuing criminal cases. One day after eating, Jiho spotted a girl from the photos on his phone and he secretly followed the girl home. He looked really suspicious and the girl sensed something, so she quickly ran home and hurried inside. Jiho hid in a corner and watched her. The next day he attended a course to learn how to improve his interaction skills. He was given a questionnaire about his family, but he had no one to call and ended up calling Sang-eun to ask about her preferences. She was confused, but still answered his questions. He hung up before she managed to ask him if anything was wrong. Meanwhile, Hae-jin is an actor who was constantly portrayed in the media as a playboy. But in reality, he was not a bad guy. Many years ago at a gathering, he saw an incredibly beautiful girl for the first time and she had not forgot about her till today. That night, he went to the bar to unwind and discuss movie plans with his assistant when he noticed a man staring at him. The assistant thought it was a stalker and rushed over to grab his phone, sparking a conflict between the two. As Hae-jin walked away to avoid being recognized, he brushed past his first love. Sang-eun was preparing to retire and planned to have one last meal with Jiho. Jiho prepared Sang-eun's favorite dishes. Sang-eun planned to announce her decision to Jiho, but Jiho spoke up first and she did not manage to speak to him. She walked out feeling an unexplainable feeling. At the same time, the news reported that a woman had been stabbed to death, and it was the same girl that Jiho was following previously. A wealthy woman was shopping at the mall and she never checks the prices before spending. She picked up a limited edition bag and paid for it. Despite having a lot of money, she lived in a small basement unit filled with luxury goods. Later, the landlord came to ask her for her rent as she had not paid rent for months. She handed the landlord an expensive bag to brush her away. The landlord wanted to borrow the bag instead, but the woman said she will never use things touched by others. She then complained about the poor ventilation and sprayed some perfume to chase the woman away. This wealthy woman was Sang-eun's adoptive mother. 20 years ago, she visited an orphanage and adopted little Sang-eun due to her sharp features. She taught her table manners and made her study 8 different languages. Sang-eun was deeply grateful for her until one day she accidentally heard that the woman only adopted her to groom her into a noble woman and wanted to use her to form a marriage alliance with a wealthy conglomerate. As Sang-eun grew older, she resented family gatherings and even went as far as to pour wine over her arranged marriage partner's head and smeared food in his face. After witnessing that scene, Hae-jin fell in love with her. Sang-eun left the wealthy family and became independent. She gave her adoptive mother a bank book stating that she would repay her and would send her 30 million won every month for 13 years. One day, her adoptive mother met her and told her to stop sending money. Sang-eun planned to terminate her contract with Jiho early, however Jiho spoke first, which triggered Sang-eun's competitive side, and she decided to finish up her remaining 27 days as his contracted wife out of her ego, but in reality, it was because he saw a ticket to Canada in her purse and wanted to let her go. Her best friend asked if Sang-eun had fallen in love with Jiho, as she seemed affected and thought Jiho must have been a romantic man. Sang-eun recalled the time when they washed dishes together and accidentally had physical contact with him, but he did not think much of it and said something else. There was another incident when Sang-eun's arm was in a cast and could not hold a spoon to eat. She thought he would feed her, but he ended up pulling out 3 straws. She was so frustrated by his actions, but she also remembered the time where she went to a nightclub and he saved her. She went that night to relieve stress, and a man grabbed her inappropriately. She pushed him away, but he tried his luck again and wrapped his arm around her. She flipped him over and kicked him, however her shoe flew off, causing her to lose balance and fall to the ground. The man's friend grabbed her hair and out of a sudden, a man appeared to hit the man's head and picked up her shoe for her. Sang-eun realized it was her fake husband Jiho. He gently helped her put on her shoes and held her hand as they left, but he gripped her hand too tight and she was in pain. She woke up and realized it was a dream. Meanwhile, Sang-eun's adoptive mother wrote a will and entrusted to give a savings book to Sang-eun. It turned out that all these years she haven't spent a single cent of the money Sang-eun sent her. After writing the letter, she picked up the scarf and stood on a chair to prepare to end her life. Just as she was about to stand on a chair, the phone rang. The person who had been arranged to marry Sang-eun before was now the president of a major group and wanted to recruit Sang-eun's mother to work for him. Sang-eun went to Jiho's house for dinner as usual, but when the elevator doors opened, she unexpectedly saw Jiho and Hae-jin standing together. Hae-jin blurted out Sang-eun's real name and noticed the wedding ring on her finger. Hae-jin, who lived upstairs, could not understand why Sang-eun had to hide her identity. That night, he saw a news report about a murder and heard a loud noise from outside. He went to the staircase to check and saw Jiho downstairs with a weapon practicing to attack someone. He was terrified and wanted to call the police, but his phone fell onto the ground and Jiho noticed someone was watching and ran away. Hae-jin went downstairs later on, but only found a stack of photos of murdered girls and realized that one of them was the victim from the news report he had just seen. He was horrified and could not sleep the entire night. He was finally reunited with his first love, but her husband was a murderer. He went back to retrieve the photos, but realized they were gone. Sang-eun was about to go to Jiho's house for dinner as part of her usual arrangement, but Hae-jin suddenly stopped her and told her that her husband was extremely dangerous. At that time, Jiho opened the door and said that he was her husband. That made her feel happy and shy. As Hae-jin was holding his wife, Jiho was visibly unhappy and quickly pulled her away. Hae-jin decided to directly question Jiho's identity and pointed out his strange behavior on the staircase area the previous night and suspected that Jiho is the murderer behind the recent killings. Sang-eun grew fearful after hearing this, and it turned out that Jiho is a prosecutor and the woman he had been following was a case he had been investigating. He suspected she was a victim of domestic violence, hence he was using the knife to simulate the crime scene. After hearing this, Sang-eun looked at him in admiration and Hae-jin continued questioning her about why she always left in the middle of the night and came back a few days later. Sang-eun was about to explain when Jiho suddenly pulled her into an embrace and brought her into the house. She was touched and fell in love with his protective and thoughtful act, but Jiho came to his senses quickly and pushed her away. She was confused by his actions. This was their last dinner together and Jiho asked her about her future plans and Sang-eun told her she wanted to fall in love sincerely. She had been married several times but never experienced what is it like to be truly in love. They said their goodbyes and both of them were reluctant. As Sang-eun drove home, someone was taking pictures of her. The next day, Sang-eun went shopping with her best friend but ran into a former client on the way. The man thought she was still working, and to avoid unnecessary trouble, Sang-eun told the man she is in a relationship with her best friend. However, the man had a malicious look on his face after she walked away. That night, Sang-eun went to Jiho's apartment to give him the divorce papers, but was stopped by a man wearing a helmet. He pulled out a weapon and threatened Sang-eun. She was frightened and had no choice but to comply. As they walked into the back alley, she was trying to think if he was a client, but his voice was altered, making it impossible to tell. The man swung the weapon towards her, and luckily, Sang-eun knew martial arts and kicked him to the ground. Furious, he threw a sandbag at her, causing her to fall to the ground. As the man was about to hurt her, Hae-jin suddenly appeared and kicked him away. The helmeted man got up and fled. Hae-jin helped Sang-eun back to her place and took the first aid kit to treat her injuries. This intimate interaction made Hae-jin feel a flutter of excitement. He realized that she was not wearing her ring and asked about her relationship with Jiho, as they seemed to have an odd relationship for a married couple. He even thought that Sang-eun may be in trouble. She laughed at his speculation and said that she was just a housekeeper. Meanwhile, Jiho was downstairs. Security guard told him that his wife had been attacked and was taken upstairs. Upon returning home, he felt restless and was afraid that Hae-jin would take advantage of Sang-eun, so he grabbed the divorce papers and went up. He bumped into Sang-eun at the elevator and he suggested to have dinner together. Sang-eun told Jiho about her attack, hoping to get some concern from him, but Jiho told her it was normal because of her line of work, which involved exploding men's insecurities, and they tend to act out violently if they can't have her. She was upset that he thought of her that way. Sang-eun found the divorce papers he had given her and discovered a concert ticket to a show she liked. She was taken aback and wondered if he was trying to pursue her. She called to ask him about it, but he told her to enjoy herself and had no intention of joining her. This made Sang-eun disappointed. Little did she know, Jiho was busy investigating the helmeted man who had harmed Sang-eun. Sang-eun went to Hae-jin's place to return his clothes, and then the doorbell rang. He thought Jiho came to see Sang-eun, but in fact he was there to see Hae-jin, as he said that the helmeted man was someone Hae-jin knew. Jiho brought his colleagues home for dinner, but they were shocked by the changes in his house as it was filled with wedding photos and decorated nicely. They were surprised that a man like him could have such a cozy house and realized that the photos were all of him and Sang-eun. His boss had previously encouraged Jiho to improve his relationship with his colleagues and invited them to go on a trip together, but when the boss saw Jiho arrive alone, he was furious and yelled at him for not bringing his wife. But fortunately Sang-eun arrived in time to diffuse the awkwardness. When the boss saw Sang-eun, he was astonished as he had never imagined Jiho to have such a beautiful wife. Sang-eun wanted to leave a good impression on the boss, so she proactively invited them to dine together, and during the dinner, she discovered that Jiho had a distant relationship with his colleagues and was rarely included in gatherings. She explained that he suffered from social anxiety, making it difficult for him to interact with others. The boss said that it was excessive not to even inform him of his wedding. Meanwhile, Sang-eun held on to Jiho's hand and tried to come up with a story of their relationship being opposed by their parents, which made Jiho's boss understand. Jiho was shocked that Sang-eun was bold enough to fabricate such stories. On their way back, they encountered a delivery rider who lost control and charged towards Sang-eun. She got scared as it brought back memories of that night with the helmeted man. Jiho shielded Sang-eun, fearing for her safety, and this touched her deeply. Jiho revealed that he identified the helmeted man and the man was Hae-jin's stalker, but he misunderstood her relationship with Hae-jin and attacked her. That night, during a fan meeting, Hae-jin saw the helmeted man hiding in a corner. The next day, he was surrounded by reporters at his residence, and it turned out that the news online had revealed him as a gay. His wealthy father insisted he moved back home and arranged a business marriage, as he did not approve of Hae-jin's acting career, as it brought shame to the family. Hae-jin told his mother that he will not agree to an arranged marriage. At that time, he spotted Sang-eun passing by and walked up to her and put sunglasses on her and covered her face with a scarf and led her in front to the reporters. He announced that he was married to Sang-eun. She was shocked as she did not know what was happening. Later that evening, Jiho watched the news and recognized that it was Sang-eun. He was angry about it. Sang-eun confronted Hae-jin, asking why he acted on his own without consulting her, and he told her to meet someone. She refused and said that she wouldn't just meet with anyone and walked away. Hae-jin pleaded desperately, explaining that the reason why he needed a contract marriage was to protect his mother. After hearing this, she hesitated and said she would think about it. Hae-jin gave Sang-eun a car key, instructing her to drive the vehicle to avoid the masked man. However, Sang-eun could not find the car and rode a motorcycle which she found with a delivery outfit. Sang-eun managed to escape successfully. The next day, after consideration, Sang-eun decided to help Hae-jin and disguised as the delivery rider once again, however she ran into Jiho. As she felt guilty, she hid in a corner, but he noticed her through the reflection and suspected she was the helmeted man who attacked Sang-eun. He rushed over to confront her, but Sang-eun knocked him down. Just as she was about to escape, he caught her again and lifted the helmet's visor and discovered it was Sang-eun. He was shocked and pushed her away and left in confusion. After meeting Hae-jin, she took off her disguise and transformed back to her usual outfit. She presented the contract to Hae-jin for review, but he was taken aback by the price initially, but eventually agreed and signed the contract. They began appearing in public together to create confusion for the masked man. Jiho found himself constantly thinking about Sang-eun, which distracted him from work. When he consulted his psychologist, he was advised to bravely pursue what he wanted. Meanwhile, Sang-eun's life was complicated as she had two husbands, a superstar who was eager to claim her. However, Jiho said that they had already collaborated for 5 years, and both of them did not want to let her go, but they eventually compromised. Sang-eun would stay with Jiho on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and with Hae-jin on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays. One day, Jiho's boss approached him and asked him to host a gathering to help him integrate better with his colleagues. Sang-eun told Jiho that hosting a gathering was an easy task for her, and she immediately took Jiho to the mall to buy everything. Jiho was exhausted, but Sang-eun was still energetic after all that shopping. Later, they went to a photo studio to take pictures to put at the house. Jiho was uncomfortable, but after her guidance, he gradually let loose. On the way back, he suddenly threw himself towards Sang-eun in the car and she was stunned, and he quickly explained that there was a fly around. Sang-eun was feeling flustered and quickly turned on the music to ease the awkwardness, but a love song came on which made the atmosphere even more romantic. Sang-eun came to Jiho's house to redecorate it and put up the photos. She even hired a team of competent chefs to cook dinner. The cold and sterile house is transformed into a warm and cozy place. Soon, the party began and Sang-eun, who could not hold her alcohol, kept avoiding drinks. However, she overheard Jiho's colleagues gossiping about her, saying that she did not drink as there is some unspeakable secret between her and Jiho. Upon returning to the table, Sang-eun challenged the female colleague to a drinking contest, and after many rounds of alcohol, she outdrank everyone. She became high and joined a colleague to perform a sexy dance. Amidst the chaotic festivities, she lost track of time and fell asleep at Jiho's house. Upon waking up, she realized she had to go to work at Hae-jin's house and quickly hurried over. They took a walk in the community park and allowed people to capture photos of their date to dispel rumors of Hae-jin. Sang-eun, who was so tired, leaned on Hae-jin, and this made his heart race, and he mistakenly thought Sang-eun had feelings for him. Jiho happened to pass by while running, and he was feeling jealous. Sang-eun suddenly recalled what happened before she blacked out at the party. While playing a game, her colleagues had prompted for her and Jiho to kiss. Jiho tried to avoid and started talking about other topics, however Sang-eun stood up and kissed Jiho. This shocking scene made Sang-eun jumped and she woke up. But soon after, she fell asleep and Hae-jin carried her up to her house. However, Jiho appeared at her door as he did not want Sang-eun to be alone with Hae-jin, thus the two men kept watching over each other until Sang-eun woke up and left. The next day, Sang-eun called a cleaning lady to tidy up the place and pretended that the kiss never happened. Jiho started thinking if it was just a game to her and ordered them to leave. She left with a puzzled look as she did not understand why he flared up. Sang-eun picked him up from the courthouse after work and suggested having a few drinks when they got home. Jiho, who never drinks, made an exception and drank with her. As Sang-eun was looking at the rain outside, Jiho had already passed out from the single glass of alcohol. Sang-eun could not resist leaning in, and as she was about to kiss him, she froze and realized how crazy she was. As she was about to leave, Jiho grabbed her hand and confessed his feelings. Sang-eun was feeling happy about it as the man she secretly liked also liked her, however when Jiho was sober he acted differently, which made her frustrated. To figure out how Sang-eun felt about him, he invited her to his boss's gathering and planned to show off his skills in front of Sang-eun, but instead he ended up being laughed at by everyone. Fortunately, Sang-eun's impressive golf skills helped restore his dignity as her husband. He was very gentle towards her when driving the buggy, and even put a towel over her legs to prevent her from flashing anyone. When she wanted to pick up a ball, Jiho rushed over and told her to stay put. As they were resting, Jiho noticed that Sang-eun was massaging her back, so he bought her a muscle relief patch. Sang-eun was secretly happy and deeply touched by his actions. Meanwhile, Hae-jin's mother made a surprise visit to see what kind of woman her son's girlfriend was, especially since Hae-jin was fussy and rejected many wealthy heiresses from prominent families. She was angry over his choice and asked his assistant about her, but he stated that he had only seen the woman a few times. At that time, Sang-eun appeared in front of her and was dressed in casual wear. She blocked Sang-eun's path and inspected her from head to toe. She could not believe that her son had such poor taste, and she invited her to chat. They went to a nearby high-end restaurant where his mom intentionally pulled a French menu to make things difficult for Sang-eun. Even though Sang-eun was fluent in 8 languages, she chose not to show off her skills out of respect and let the lady take the lead. Before they could finish, the lady asked Sang-eun to leave as she felt that sitting there with her any longer would lower her own status. However, the lady's assistant told her that when the server brought the wrong tea, she discreetly knocked on the table to signal that she understood French, and she was also listening into the conversations from the next table even though they were speaking in French. Upon hearing this, she realized Sang-eun was not as simple as she seemed and called her son, saying that she wanted to investigate her background. To her surprise, Hae-jin warned her mother that if she touched Sang-eun, he would sever their mother-son relationship. While Sang-eun was preparing to leave work, she saw that Hae-jin looked unwell. She accompanied him to a hotel where an event was happening, and just as she was about to leave, she found Hae-jin collapsed on the ground. Sang-eun stayed the night and took care of him. When she left the hotel, she realized she was late for work, but was wondering why Jiho had not contacted her all day. When she saw a news article, Sang-eun realized she hadn't changed her clothes and was thinking of how to explain that to Jiho. He called her, and after learning she was at the hotel, he said he will pick her up. As it was raining heavily, Hae-jin went to seek shelter in the lobby. She ran into Hae-jin, and he took the opportunity to introduce Hae-jin to the female lawyer and said she was his fiancée. The female lawyer introduced herself and said she was married to him. She pointed to the entrance as Jiho entered. This made Sang-eun awkward, but he explained that he had been divorced for 7 years. However, Sang-eun felt a feeling of doubt crept in and her heart was feeling disheartened. She wandered off to a park and Jiho met his therapist to talk. The therapist encouraged him to bravely confess his feelings, and at that time, Sang-eun encountered the helmeted man again. She was shocked, but realized it was Hae-jin who wanted to surprise her to thank her for taking care of him. He wanted to gift her a present to thank her, and he hung the camera around her neck, however her hair was tangled with the strap. Just then, Jiho stumbled upon them as he was drunk. He mistakenly thought that the helmeted guy was attacking Sang-eun. He rushed forward and jumped on Hae-jin and started punching him. Sang-eun pulled Jiho away and explained he was drunk. When they looked over, Jiho passed out on the ground and Hae-jin had no choice but to call his uncle for help. They took Jiho to a campsite to let him sober up. While Jiho was sleeping, Sang-eun and Hae-jin drank and had fun and even gazed at the stars together. After a few rounds of drinks, Hae-jin went to get some snacks, and when he returned he overheard her saying that she wished someone would love her sincerely. Unable to control himself, he kissed her. At that exact moment, Jiho woke up and saw the scene. The next day after returning home, Jiho warned Hae-jin not to cross any lines, but Hae-jin told him that he and Sang-eun had already confessed their feelings for each other. Sang-eun, on the other hand, was deeply troubled as she did not know if she should explain things to Jiho to clear up any misunderstanding. As Jiho was about to go for a run, he bumped into his ex-wife, and upon learning that he lived there, she mistakenly thought it was because of her, as she often mentioned that place previously. Sang-eun, who was hiding nearby, felt sad. His ex-wife questioned who could marry a man that was so picky, and that the fiancé must be after his money if she was with him. Sang-eun felt discouraged and angry as she did not expect Jiho to view her in that way and walked away. That evening, she received a text from Jiho asking her why she had not come to work. She decided to confront him and asked him about his conversation with his ex-wife. However, he shot back asking about the kiss they shared the night before, and neither of them was willing to back down, and they continued arguing. Suddenly, it started raining and they went to seek shelter in the car. Jiho was sulking, but out of the blue, he leaned in and kissed her. Years ago, Jiho was waiting for his wife after work to celebrate their anniversary, but right in front of him, she accepted her boss's invitation to dinner instead. He watched her leave and was disappointed. Then he overheard two of her colleagues whispering that his wife and her boss were having an affair. However, he chose to trust his wife and prepared a meal for her, waiting for her to return, but she made an excuse saying she had to work late, but in reality she was spending time with her boss. No matter how much Jiho gave, she continued to neglect and hurt him, and he finally chose to divorce her. It wasn't until he met Sang-eun that he decided to open his heart once more. Sang-eun was buying groceries to prepare dinner for Jiho when Jiho's ex-wife happened to see her. She heard Sang-eun's mentioning her ex-husband's name and immediately called Hae-jin to inform him that his girlfriend was involved with her ex-husband. Hae-jin, however, remained calm and explained that she was just his contract fiancée to avoid gossip and pressure from his family. Jiho's ex-wife was unhappy and confronted him and accused him of finding another woman just to hurt her. He did not want to argue with her and threw her out. Meanwhile, Hae-jin, sensing trouble, rushed home just in time to intercept Sang-eun, claiming that he had to talk to her urgently, but in reality he did not want her to see Jiho and his ex-wife together and get upset. He panicked and carried her up, causing her to drop her groceries, and she angrily demanded an explanation. Hae-jin could only apologize, but they did not realize that a group of people took photographs of them. The next day, Sang-eun's face was exposed to the public, and when she saw the report, she was shocked. Her identity was known, and when Jiho saw the news, he was stunned. He called Sang-eun to comfort her and told her he did not care about what others thought of her. Sang-eun was deeply touched, and she went to Hae-jin and told him that they should terminate their contract as she wanted to be with Jiho. Hae-jin was feeling lost and upset as she left, but the news kept on spreading and soon her personal information was exposed online, including her past and previous marriage contracts. Sang-eun was on a date with Jiho when she overheard people discussing about Hae-jin's news. She took out her phone and realized that her own identity was exposed. Hae-jin, now in crisis, and Jiho's ex-wife suggested Hae-jin portray himself as the victim and accuse Sang-eun of being a love scammer, but Hae-jin refused, saying that he would rather quit the entertainment industry than hurt Sang-eun. The next day, they held a press conference to address the rumors about Hae-jin's fiancé. She confirmed that Sang-eun's past was true, but clarified that it had nothing to do with Hae-jin. Hae-jin realized he had been tricked by her and wanted to stop her, but was stopped by his assistant. However, she continued by saying that Sang-eun had many unfortunate marriages, and she took every relationship seriously, and every husband spoke highly of her. She expressed that she hoped Sang-eun would find happiness, and confirmed that Jiho and Sang-eun were truly in love, and asked the public to give their blessings and that they would take legal action against any slander. The next day, the public opinion shifted rapidly, and people began supporting them. Hae-jin's popularity also increased. Hae-jin was confused about Jiho's ex-wife's speech, and it turned out that the speech was prepared by Jiho. Hae-jin and Sang-eun ended their contract, and Hae-jin went to announce to reporters that he had parted ways amicably with his girlfriend as she did not like the public attention. Sang-eun and Jiho could finally be together. Although they were legally married, they had never held a wedding. Jiho pulled out a wedding preparation checklist for them to plan their wedding, however disagreements arose when they were booking the venue. After that, they went to try many outfits, but none satisfied Sang-eun. They even spent half a day debating on the wedding invitations. Jiho was so exhausted that he fell asleep while she was choosing her gowns. When they finally made a decision, both of them returned home, completely drained. Sang-eun suggested inviting a few close friends for a meal, and Jiho agreed with the idea. The next day they went to a fancy restaurant for dinner, and while Sang-eun went to the toilet, Jiho pulled out a ring box preparing to propose. He noticed the staff setting up the venue and thought someone else was also preparing to propose, but then a waiter asked him to step onto the stage. He was confused and not sure what was happening. To his surprise, Sang-eun appeared holding a bouquet of flowers and proposed to him. They embraced and kissed. Not long later, they invited their friends over for dinner to celebrate their marriage and was happily married to each other. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed our summary. Your support means the world to us, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel.